Awesome. Well, one, before I start sharing my slides and kicking off our quarterly product webinar, thank you so much, David, Chris, Dave, Don, for participating. You know where the chat is. We really want to make this a lively session. So please use it. Our team is on standby. We want to make sure we address questions, comments. At the end of the day, this is all for all of our customers here. This is everything's for you, us giving you an update in terms of how we're doing, what's coming up next. And we really just want to make sure that this is engaging and we hear from you. So use the chat. We'll love to kind of have a robust Q&A session at the end of this webinar. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to see if I can share my screen and get things started. I'm gonna look to my team, thumbs up, just make sure that share screen, everything works. Awesome. So welcome everyone to our second Monograph product webinar of 2021. I can't say it's just super amped and excited to be sharing all the progress we've been making. There's amazing news coming down. We'll get to those slides soon enough. This one is jam-packed with amazing news, features, and a whole bunch of things that were in the backlog that we're about to announce, and ways that we can continue to give back to the practice of architecture. The first half of the year has been just an incredible year of growth. I'm extraordinarily proud. The entire team here at Monograph has grown over 300%. We started off the year as a team of 8, and now we're almost 30 people. All that at the end of the day means we're going to just continue to build product and features that are extraordinarily essential for architects way faster. And we're just going to have a lot more bandwidth and resources to make sure we're always staying on top. Before we get into it, just taking a few minutes, huge shout out to the entire team here. We have a few members here, but it takes a whole team to really move the needle to solve world-changing problems for architects. We're building a world-class, people-centric company where we have 50% of the company are females, 50% of the company are minorities. I just want to make sure that our values internally are incredibly important and aligned with the huge topics around diversity and inclusion. So proud of the entire team, of all the progress we're making, and we're going to continue to grow. We have an aggressive growth plan, super excited that we have so much support from all the architects that are using Monograph today. It is my honor to really be kicking off the second 2021 product webinar. I'm going to do a quick recap of what we've already accomplished this year, and then a glimpse of what is to come. If you don't know, just in case your connection drops, internet problems, computer problems, technical problems, we are recording this webinar, and we'll be sending that recording out shortly afterwards. So no different than 2020, right? A whole bunch of Zoom calls. Unfortunately, we cannot do this in person yet. A lot of face masks, but I'm so happy that the light at the end of the tunnel is coming. And I can't wait to personally be on a plane soon and meet everyone as much as I can as we start to make the trips around the United States. But for now, let's make the most of this Zoom call, and let's try a really quick icebreaker here. Some of you already know where the chat button is. Let's just really quickly introduce ourselves. I'd love to know a little bit more of who you are, where you're working from, and what's the name of your practice. So if you can do that in the chat right below, that would be really incredible and really impactful for all the architects that are on this webinar today to know that we're in it together, and we're all contributing towards moving the needle for the industry to move forward. Awesome. I'm looking at the chat right now, and I'm seeing hi Don, Dave, Sean, really, really exciting. I'm gonna let the team here to also introduce themselves. I'm gonna just speak minds verbally. I'm Robert. I'm one of the co-founders and CEO here at Monograph. Trained as an architect, currently based in San Francisco, and born and raised in Chicago. Awesome. Now that we all know where that button is, right next to it is also Q&A. Use the chat, use the Q&A button. They're both extraordinarily amazing features made by Zoom to make sure that we have a log of what are the common questions, what are the chat topics. Participate. We're going to do our best to make sure we address every comment and question within the chat. jumping into like today's agenda. So one, we'll be covering some of our newest enhancements in Monograph, like things that are like recently launched, super excited. We'll go deep into those details and cover, like people will do an amazing job of covering what they are and how they're gonna add value to your day-to-day workflow. Second, we'll look at like upcoming features, things that are like right over the horizon, we're actively working on and we're almost finished. So we'll be super excited to give you a glimpse of what is to come really soon. Lastly, we'll wrap up with what we call new connections. This is like incredible and exciting for me. Like it's been a long time passion of why we started to build a product like Monograph, but at the end of the day, really it's all about like how we can continue to contribute and fuel and power like the industry forward. There's a whole bunch of other initiatives outside of the product that we really are super excited and impactful about that will move the needle for the entire industry. And then lastly, very standard, I want to hear questions. I want to be here and support every one of you. And really just kind of like watch any questions and just kind of get deep on some of the topics that we've covered today. So just to recap, if you like are just jumping into Monograph, well, what is Monograph? Monograph, creating a better built environment by enabling architects and professionals to work together seamlessly. We are a team of architects, software developers, and software designers, relentlessly passionate to help you run a 21st century business with real-time visibility into every single project. Before we jumped in, I've been prepping for this slide, super excited to finally share it. If you haven't seen it, like let's just really like, I'm gonna reframe the slide a little bit in terms of new partners into new domain and call it like fueling the future of Monograph and paving the way forward. And to do that, like capital is how we're gonna move the needle on this particular section. I have two announcements to share. One, social capital. If you haven't noticed, we went from monograph.io to monograph.com. We did it. It's a huge like symbolic movement and commitment to our community and to the profession that like we're here to stay. We're 100% devoted to the success of the industry. And we're gonna like honestly like really gravitate and cherish the movement to the .com. Second, super thrilled to share that we do have new venture partners and the announcement of a $7.4 million Series A round of funding led by Index Ventures. We'll continue with continual participation from our existing believers in our mission, Homebrew, Parade Ventures, and Designer Fund. Like it's just amazingly. Sometimes I have to take a moment and reflect. I'm trained as an architect and I'm out here raising venture capital. Super proud of myself, super proud of like the entire team. And these are amazing investors that power a lot of the future tech that power our lives today. And they believe that this industry needs tools and they're making that happen by essentially putting their capital work at Monograph. I want to say to really start to like wrap this up, thank you so much. Our customers, our allies, our partners. We wouldn't be here without you. We are in this together, building software designed specifically for architects and engineers. I am so grateful to be sharing this journey with everyone here. Now, I've did nothing but talk. I think a lot of us already know this information already. I've spoken way too much. Super excited to like pass the mic over to Pete, our head of product here at Monograph, an incredible leader who joined us a few months ago, but many of you have already met him. He's super excited. He's been digging deeper and deeper into Monograph, our product, the problems, the vision, and the solutions that are yet to come. Pete, I'll let you take it away.
Great. Thanks, Robert, for the very generous and kind and energetic introduction. Appreciated. Let me go ahead and get ready to present some slides and some software to everyone. All right. Great. So thanks everyone for joining first. I'll be walking you through some of the workflow and efficiency improvements we've made over the last quarter. And then we're going to shift gears and talk about the roadmap. So let's jump in. This past quarter, we focused on a common theme for us, efficiency. we're always working on things to make you more efficient. So you heard make you more efficient. You heard Robert talk about this quite a bit. We believe everything outside of design should be as efficient as possible so you can get back to doing the thing you love and the thing we appreciate from your practices, which is making the world we live in a more beautiful, functional place. So we'll begin with timesheets. If there's anything our customers need to be able to do on the go, it's timesheet entry. Every Monograph user enters timesheets. Most of you all do it weekly. We see the need and evidence for this in our user analytics, and we hear it from you all firsthand on user interviews. So to support that need, we've made timesheet entry much more mobile friendly, so you can log your work right from your mobile device. We've tightened up the spacing, improved the scrolling, and we're opening the numeric keypad by default now when you tap into one of those time entry inputs. And also don't forget, power tip here, you can use iOS and Android to create a home screen link that takes you right to your current timesheet with just one click. Drop that on your home screen, use it every Friday. It'll get you off to a good start and you get those timesheets in no time flat. Along those same lines of more efficient time entry, when you're logging time from your desktop, you can use your keyboard to navigate the time entry inputs. So pressing tab, for example, will take you from one time entry input into the notes input and then on to the next entry. When you need to skip or jump around between those time entry inputs, use the arrow keys. They work all 4 directions. Just tap your way around. You don't need to touch your mouse. In other words, you can jam through your timesheet in less than a minute without ever having to touch your trackpad or your mouse. Less time in timesheets means more time designing incredible spaces. That's what we're trying to achieve. The time log report, which reports on time logged in timesheets, is one of the most popular reports we have in Monograph. We've received feedback from quite a few of you, including some of you on the call here on this webinar, about additional enhancements. So we've made it even more powerful with better grouping and filtering. You can see some of this in the animated GIF on the slide. You can now group by phase or activity. So for example, if you group by phase, then for each phase, you'll see the total hours for that phase plus a list of all the time entries for each employee who logged time to that phase. Furthermore, the filters are now multi-select. So you could, for example, focus that same report to include only the CD and CA phases, or focus it only on the work done by a list of your project managers. So there's a number of different ways to slice and dice that time log data. And now, of course, you can export it all to CSV if you need to slice and dice it in some way that we haven't dreamed of yet. But of course, if you're going to go ahead and do that, please drop me an email, peter@monograph.com, so I can understand how you need to see that data outside of our system. Side note, project expenses, that tab also got its own separate report tab now. You'll find it right up there at the top. So be sure to check out all of those timesheet related features and always let us know what you think. Shifting gears slightly, as our customers continue to adopt Monograph and grow their practices, our platform has got to grow with them. Many of our customers have used Monograph to manage hundreds of projects and counting. So we took some time to improve performance on the slower parts of our product. The example you're seeing here in the animated GIF shows the dashboard page before and after our performance improvements. The dashboard page loads 5 times faster in this case. Individual results will vary, but timesheets is around 3.5 times faster. The projects page is 2 times faster, and the list goes on. And of course, we'll keep working on more of these non-feature improvements through the rest of the year to make sure that our platform is growing with all of our customers. One of the biggest highlights from last quarter was the introduction of project templates. So earlier this year, our research and your feedback indicated that many of our customers are copying and pasting projects to jumpstart similar projects. So while that worked in some ways, it also came with a little bit of baggage. So now with project templates, it's easier to jumpstart those projects without any of those side effects. So instead of talking you through the benefits in this case, let me show you a quick demo. So here we are. Just adjacent to your list of projects, you're going to find a new tab called Project Templates. You can see I've already got 4 project templates created. you can organize your templates in the way that makes sense for your practice. For example, you might want to organize your templates or create templates that correspond to the types of projects you work on, or the budget for those projects, or which team is going to be taking them on. There's a bunch of different ways that you could create your templates. We just recommend that you do it in a way that makes most sense to you. Let's dive into one of these templates, and you'll see right off the bat that they're very similar to projects. In fact, they're 95% identical to projects. They have phases that have timelines, they have milestones, they have tasks, they have durations, notes, etc. You can see we've also got tasks here with dates on them and assignments. You can also see if I jump into edit, you've got a breakdown of this template, its budget, into a few phases that are allocated based on percentages over here on the right. So templates are a lot like projects. And there are a few ways to create projects from these templates. You could start off at the templates list, decide which one of these is most similar to the project you're going to start working on, and click on Save as Project. That will create a project from that template. Alternatively, using the New Project button, you get to pick here. So let's go down this road. Let's call this first SFR 415. I'm going to pick my single family template. This is an important part here and a powerful part of these templates. It asks me to pick a start date. All of the dates in the template, including the phase start dates and their relative distance from that start date, and the milestone and task dates, will all shift according to the start date we pick here. So for example, I want this project to start on August 1st, and my fee for this project is $800,000. Go ahead and click Create. Give me a second to get this out of the way. And now you can see I've got a project that I created in literally a matter of seconds that's already got the framework for my typical single family residence, less than 3,000 square foot projects. I can go ahead and assign people to it. But what I really want to point out here is that based on that budget change, it's maintained the allocations on a per phase basis. So that increase in budget was evenly allocated across our various phases. Also notice the date ranges were all adjusted to start relative to that start date I picked on that modal that you saw me in a second ago. If I get through this, go to tasks. Notice the tasks carried over and the dates here shifted as well to correspond to that new start date you saw me put into the modal a little while ago. So it's very easy to create projects from templates, and that should save you a whole lot of time. So again, you can get back to doing the thing you love, designing great spaces. Now, we know many of you, we've heard and we've seen this in your data, you have projects that are masquerading as templates. And when you start using templates, you're probably going to want to create real templates that are very similar to these fake templates you have over in your project. So, of course, we want to support you there. You'll notice I have a fake template here. It's a project. I'm under projects. I've got a fake template here called remodel less than 3,000 square feet. I'm opening it up. More actions. Save as template, remodel, create, and now I've got a new template. I could adjust, of course, the phases, tasks, etc. I'm going to skip that because you guys all know how that works. Go to projects, templates, and there's my new template that I could use for any remodel. So that's templates. We'll be looking forward to watching adoption and looking for opportunities to improve it. Please don't hesitate to reach out and let me know how it's working or how it's not working for you. That's what I'm here for. I'm going to jump back into slides at this point, and we are going to move on to the future. That was a recap of our recent releases and how they'll help you be more efficient. Now we're going to be talking about the future and how that's going to give you better visibility into your profitability and other business data. So I'm going to start with features that are further out in the roadmap, and I'll end this part of the presentation with features that are just around the corner. We begin with invoicing improvements. We've been talking to a bunch of customers about what we can do to improve invoice creation and management. Some of those customers are here with us today. Thank you all for joining, and more importantly, thank you for all your input you've given us. It's really helped shape our roadmap. We've got some big plans here. Our first round of improvements will include better filters on the invoice index, so you can continue to adopt and use Monograph to generate hundreds of invoices. And as you continue to do so, it'll be easier to find, for example, all the invoices that correspond to client X, or for example, that one invoice that you need to resend because the client lost it. At the same time, we're working on a better project invoice overview that you'll see at the top of the project invoice page, and gives you a very quick and easy graphical way to see what's been paid, what hasn't been paid, what's overdue, etc. As I said, we're just getting started on the detailed design of these enhancements and all of the things related to invoices that will follow. So the launch date on this stuff is still TBD. In the next month or two, we're going to give you reports on your company's financial health and profit. More on that in a moment. But before we can do that, we need to capture your costs. Most of those costs come from salaries and the overhead associated with employees. We're mid-flight on an initiative that will allow you to capture your employees' salaries, the hours they work per week, and the overhead multipliers that capture things like office space and software like Monograph. This will enable a few profit reports we'll be working on this year, the first of which I'm going to tell you about today. So to help you run your practice more profitably, we're going to give you reports that help you see profitability and understand what's driving it. In conjunction with the salary and overhead work I just mentioned, we'll be releasing our first profitability report, which we're internally calling organizational profitability. It'll allow you to understand how profitable your organization's been in the past and how profitable you'll be in the future based on your current project plans. Getting those project plans up to date, in shape, and keeping them that way is really important. And you're going to see why it's important as you start using this organizational profitability chart that we're going to give you here. As you can imagine, and as we've seen and heard in a number of the customer interviews, again, with some of the folks on the call today, there are a variety of additional ways that we can provide even more visibility into your profit. So beyond this organizational profitability report, look for more reports to follow later this year. Now, quickly and slightly unrelated, do you remember that time log report I mentioned earlier? Well, we're not done with it yet. We're still working on it. We're going to be adding a graph at the top that gives you better visualization of the time log report to help you find trends that you can take action on. This is something we hope to have ready for you in the next few weeks. And lastly, in a matter of days, I'm hoping, we'll be releasing our new consultant planner. We built this because we heard our customers, you all, asking for more specificity on budget structure, specifically which consultants are involved in a project and how much budget gets passed through to them. And again, here, instead of just telling you what's going on, I'm going to jump into a demo and show you what I'm talking about. So here we go. Let me jump back here for one more second. Okay, here we go. All right, in your settings area of the product you're probably pretty familiar with, you're going to find a new place to create a list of consultant types. This list you can manipulate like any other list in settings, and we want you to curate this list to include the consultant types that you typically work with. These are the types that you're going to end up using to assign to specific projects and then break down into consultant type specific budgets. So let's jump over to a project. I'm not in production right now. So just to be clear, this isn't live quite yet. This will be live in a matter of days. I'm gonna go ahead and create a new project. 1301 Wurtland. 1301 SFR. I want to grab my single family residence template again. I'm just going to leave these as is for now. Click create. No surprises here. You saw this demoed earlier. Notice that the template I used in that case came with a consultant budget. You can see that here. Now, notice what happens when I click next. We take you to the consultant planner. This is where you take advantage of those consultant types you saw in settings. You pick which types of consultants are going to be involved in this project. Then you allocate your consultant budget to them. Maybe 5,000 for this person, 6,000 for this one, I get an alert that it went over budget, negotiate a little bit, bring it back down, and we're good to go. Click next, click done. So this is how we're allowing you to be more specific. Let me jump back over there so you guys can see it again. This is how we're allowing you to be more specific about how your consultant budget breaks down to be used on various consultant types. And in the future, as you can imagine, you'll be able to invoice against these allocations. You'll be able to also add contact information for each one of the consultant types. So you'll be able to name the organizations and the people who are working for those organizations for each one of these consultant types. So as you can see, we've got quite a few things planned down the road for this, but you can expect what I've just demoed to drop into production sometime in the next few days. So that's a preview of the stuff we're working on. I'm sure there's some great questions coming in. I'm not going to pause and answer those right now. However, at the end of the call, I'll be happy to answer all your questions that are coming in. And in the meantime, I'm going to pass the mic to Mr. Chris Morgan, Marketing Manager. Chris, over to you.
All right. Thanks, Pete. It's awesome to see many of you I know in the room and lots more to meet soon enough, I hope. Hey, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I'm Chris Morgan. I work with the growth team at Monograph to build resources for the architecture community. And I'm speaking on behalf of the team, the growth team at Monograph. There is more than just me on this team, and we are trying every day to improve how offices and professionals can unlock growth in the broader architecture community. I'm very excited to share some amazing new resources that Monograph is releasing for the community. So I know that many of you have been attending these. Every week this past quarter, we have welcomed amazing guests from firms such as Olson Kundig, Snow Kralik, Trahan Architects, Bjark Ingels Group, KPF, Rossman Architecture, and much more. You can visit monograph.com/webinars to watch all of these recordings and to register for more upcoming events. We've got some amazing guests coming up that we have not yet announced. So after many, many requests to make our interviews easier to tune into on your own time, you can finally also listen to best practice on the go as a podcast. So many requests for this. It's finally here. We're uploading all of our interviews, and we're starting with our earliest interviews with Mark LePage of Entree Architect, Evelyn Lee of AIA National, Luis Mendez of Shop Architects, and so many more. We're posting twice a week for the next 12 weeks. You can start listening at podcast.monograph.com, and you can subscribe using your favorite podcast app like Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and more. I want to thank the hundreds of people who've been joining our webinars and asking amazing questions. We're going to hear some of those amazing questions later today during this talk. But if you love best practice, our whole series, you're going to love what I'm going to show you next. Introducing the Monograph best practice community. I can't tell you how many messages we get, even just in this room. I wonder how many of you know each other. I wish you could meet each other. Well, you finally can. All of you have unique experiences and knowledge and tips that you've been picking up every day in practice. We want your help to build the Monograph community so the whole industry can grow together. The interview series, it focuses on one or two professionals every week, which is amazing. But we want to focus on the hundreds of people in the audience who are practicing professionals in architecture. This is a place to share your knowledge, share your tips, ask detailed questions, very specific questions about practice, and expand your network of colleagues beyond just your own practice. We're just getting started, so visit community.monograph.com and introduce yourself. There's more though. We know that so many of you are growing your firms and you need to hire top talent. You want to hire architects and professionals who are exceptional managers or are upskilling themselves in the Monograph community and are on track to becoming great managers. Professionals are signing up to get daily and weekly job posts on hire.monograph.com. They don't even have to visit this website to get the newest jobs. Plus, we are campaigning select job posts every week to thousands of subscribers in our newsletter and social media. Here's the best part though. Monograph customers post for free, unlimited. Just send me an email, chris@monograph.com. I'll send you your unlimited posting code as a Monograph customer. So you can start adding your jobs at hire.monograph.com. But here's the biggest thing. This August, we are hosting the first community conference, and you are invited. Section Cut is a one-day global conference on architecture practice operations. Save the date for August 12th. It's going to be a day-long event of workshops and fireside chats with leading professionals. You can sign up right now at monograph.com/sectioncut2021. We're going to post the direct link in the chat. We have way more exciting details on the way about this, but just get your foot in the door, lock in your registration so you can get updates about all the many more exciting details that are to come about this. So lots more is in the works at Monograph. Thank you so much for tuning in today. We want to hear from you. I want to meet you. Robert wants to meet you. Peter wants to meet you. We all want to meet you. Schedule a call with us. Email Robert, Peter, or Chris at monograph.com, or you can just use the chat window on our website at monograph.com. Back to you, Robert.
Like, what really matters is like the team is super focused on providing amazing value for the industry. We're working extremely hard to continue to like not only move the product needle forward, but as Chris described, there's so much more as a company we can do to give back to the whole industry. So I'm so proud. And you guys can hear the motorcycles in front of my apartment are also amazingly excited and super pumped to kind of like move Monograph forward. Thank you again for everyone's time. I will really want to like see if there's any questions within the group and just kind of like dive deeper into a discussion of like what is up today and what is moving forward.
We have a couple questions.
Okay.
Starting off with, let me see here. Actually, we do have a question on demoing the time log report, if that's possible.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Let me share my screen again, and I will do a quick demo of that for those of you who haven't poked around and found it yet. Give me 1 second, share my desktop. How are we looking, gentlemen? Can you see fixed fee project?
Mhm.
Fantastic. All right, time log report right here under a project. We jump into this demo project, one that you guys all have access to through your demo account. You see I can set the time frame here, filter by people, phase, or activities, grouping. I find grouping very useful. Grouping by activities. So here are all the activities that have time logged against them during this time frame. Each one of these is expandable, so I can see the list of people. In this case, Fernando's done all the logging. Here's his notes. Here's the total against administration. Do the same for phases. Looks like all that work has been, all the work during this time frame has been done on the schematic design phase, which if you look at project overview, I believe, yep, that's what should be the case. And if I just wanted to see what Anna has been up to, I can filter for Anna, and there's Anna's time. All of this can be exported to a spreadsheet as well. Pretty straightforward. Also, just a reminder, we're going to be adding a graph to this at the top of this. So it will allow you to see a lot of this data visually to look more closely for trends and such. Hopefully that covers it.
Let's see. Sorry, we have a couple more questions here. Here we have a question on profitability. So with the push towards profit, this is from Williamson. With the push towards profitability reports, will it include a great dashboard look at project by project profitability?
Great question, William. Near and dear topic to my heart, as many of the folks on this webinar know. I've been talking to probably close to a dozen customers at this point about what profitability reporting means to them, and reporting at the organizational level, at the project level, and somewhere in between are all topics that have come up. So our first push will be organizational profitability. You saw a screenshot of that in my slide deck. Our second push will be around, think of it as profit drivers. What we really, at the end of the day, when you think about why Monograph is here, we want to help you run a more successful practice. And part of being successful means being profitable. We want to help you identify the things that drive profitability and the things that drive you away from profitability. So that's not necessarily project by project. We could give you project by project profitability and allow you to go do that analysis manually, but that would take more time. We want to take less of your time, not more of your time. So the next report we're going to be pushing out, called Profit Drivers, tentatively, is about helping you find those insights about what things, which people, phases, et cetera, are leading towards profitability and which ones are not. So phase 2 of this isn't necessarily a project by project level profitability. However, it answers a lot of the questions that you might use a project by project profitability report for. Following that, we probably will do something along the lines of just simple project level profitability.
Does that
Thanks, William.
help? William, does that cover a little bit your question? Great, awesome. We have some questions from Chris. Start off with, I think, just because we're on the topic of profitability. Just curious if you could talk a little bit more about the planned updates to invoicing. Like, what's the,
Sure. Maybe
you can kind of walk us through thematically the roadmap and how we're thinking about invoicing.
So we've been talking about invoicing for a while, and we have some really big plans here. It's beneficial to us and you all that we take our big plans and slice them up into the smallest increments that we can, so we don't have a bunch of functionality building up on the shelf and then drop it all at once. We want to deliver the functionality as soon as it's available. So 2 or 3 things that I mentioned in the webinar in my slide deck are things that we're going to do first, some pretty simple enhancements. Beyond that, there are some very significant enhancements that allow you to design better invoices. So to organize your invoices according to the things that we know now after interviews that you all want to organize your invoices according to. The ability to have better synchronization between the invoices in Monograph and tools like QuickBooks Online. The ability to even do things like send your clients emails that have invoice attached to them, and look at reports at a project level that show the state of invoices, paid, unpaid, overdue, et cetera. All of these things are coming. So I would say the planned updates beyond what I talked about in this meeting are all about helping you create invoices that correspond more to the way you guys want to create invoices that correspond more to the way that look more like the way you want them to look. That's a big part of our planned updates for invoicing. I will also add that when you're creating that invoice, it's not super straightforward what amount you should be invoicing for. Some people base it on deliverables, timelines, tasks, phase completeness. Other people base it on hours consumed, hours remaining in the plan, etc. What we're going to also be doing is putting more of this information in front of you in the process of creating that invoice in a more understandable, easier to use way, so you can make better decisions about how much to send in those monthly invoices. Hope that answers your question, Chris. There's a lot there. Chris, I don't know that you and I particularly have talked about invoicing. Please drop me a note if you and I haven't already talked about it. I'd love to hear your opinion as well and show you some of the stuff we're thinking about. Peter@monograph.com.
His additional question, I can kind of address it now, is milestones and tasks. What's the latest on milestones and tasks, and how are we thinking about that?
Well, it's not one of our highest priorities. I went through the highest priorities today, and you probably noticed it was absent from those. Nonetheless, we've heard from a litany of people that there are a number of improvements we can make there. starting from smaller things like just give people notifications when tasks get assigned to them, or notify project managers when tasks are coming up due and they haven't been completed. My sense from what I've been hearing from customers is that's just the tip of the iceberg. So there'll probably be quite a few things that we plan on doing sometime after we get our invoicing work done. So timing TBD, Chris, but it's certainly one of our higher priorities. I mean, when I say that, what I mean is it's not far behind the things I talked about today in our roadmap part of our presentation. Hope that
Yeah,
helps.
and on that note, just to make it aware for people, if you find some of the limitations having to do with notifications currently, I'm currently working with that with another team member of mine on the marketing team to be able to surface up those notifications via email in the short term, so we can get at least something in your hands and helping you be effective with tasks as soon as possible. So please, reach out to me at George at Monograph if that's something you're interested in testing out with us. Let's see here. We got some other questions. Christopher Eastman is asking about utilization at a glance. So time spent on billable versus non-billable work. Currently, we can export that information within Monograph and roll that up into do some of that analysis outside of Monograph. But is it possible to be able to bring that together within Monograph?
It certainly is, Christopher. Utilization rate and plan time versus actual time are two very, very important metrics that are, I should say, just behind profitability in terms of reporting. In fact, clearly, utilization rate is a big component of profitability. So this profitability theme will probably run for the duration of the year, and it will probably bend towards things like utilization rate at a glance across a team, for a person, for a project, etc. Good question. Thank you, Chris.
And we have another question here from Dave Gillis. When plus and minus on the resources panel, this is more of a somewhat support question maybe, but maybe you could talk about the relationship between the resources panel and team on the reports on team projections. And maybe Robert can also jump in here because he might be also more familiar, if anything.
Robert, would you love to take that one?
Let me see if I can repeat the question so I make sure I address all the edges of that question. When plus and minus is done on the resource panel, what doesn't have edits gets reflected on reports and team projections in the week hours ? Why does it? In the team reports and projections, they don't get adjusted right now, mostly because we're taking into account the planner scenarios and we're using that as a baseline. So like team projections in terms of like looking forward are based on averages. But this is a really, really good comment because like we do want to continue to improve the product. Pete already has a lot on his plate, as everyone here can tell. This will be the second iterations within our team forecasting projections to really solve how do we start to bake in changes to the planner, changes from the resource, and even changes from the velocity an individual might be logging time that might have impact in terms of making future decisions when looking at projects. It's an amazing comment. We're working towards there. And like I think duly noted that we need to continue to feed into our projections other aspects and data points from the product. Dave, super smart, amazing question.
Dave, the planner is also a hot topic. If you do me a favor, drop me an email at peter@monograph.com. I have some follow-up questions for you as well.
Great, thanks, Dave. I think in terms of questions that we can address, it seems to be hit. I did want to kind of maybe for those that will indulge me in the chat here, something that we've been talking about internally having to do with benchmarking. There's some exciting work that we can do on the front of profitability, and just we really want to understand, like, how interesting would this be for you, and how helpful would it be, right? From both adding value to you, but also being able to give you some additional information from your own data that you otherwise couldn't get. So, historically, right, benchmarking against fees it's not good. Like, let's just say, so let me put some context. So, in aggregate, we can provide information to say, here's where you are as a firm relative to other firms of your size. That's very much possible with what we could do. Fees is a tricky subject on that front. So I'm just curious if anyone has any strong opinions on the topic of being able to provide margin feedback, benchmarking across margin, so that you understand where your margin, where your the average margin is relative to other companies, other firms of your size. Would love to know. That's one area of research that we're looking into. And so if you either are very interested, you can reach out to George at Monograph, so we can kind of continue the conversation there. Cool. So I think with that, Robert, if you want to close it off.
I just want to say thank you so much for everyone attending. Like, amazing conversations going back and forth, incredible questions. We want to continue to hear more. Like, I think, trust me when I say this, like, we really want to hear from you. It's the only way to move the needle for the team here at Monograph, to understand where does the priority lie today? How do we shift priorities based on the volume of questions and the needs of our customers? Thank you so much to the few of the names I'm just going to shout out right now that participated: Chris, Dave, William. Like, thank you so much for asking questions. Like, we continue to lean a lot on customers that, like, just wants to be open and be very transparent. Like, what are the things that Monograph we're really great at? But really, I want to know, like, what are the things that we can continue to improve, because that's the area where we need to continue to work on. With that said, if we can get everyone 10 minutes back to their day, thank you so much for joining our quarterly webinar. Looking forward to seeing you at the next quarter. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye.